On today's episode of the Devon Messinger Show, we're previewing and predicting Sam Houston versus number 8 Texas. Longhorns fans, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It's greatly appreciated. And check us out at HornSports.com for all the latest in Texas news. It's just me by myself today, but I'm going to have a Bijan Robinson-like performance when the team's not around me. We're going to come together and make this worthwhile. As always, I have some basic game info for you guys for this week's game. The game is Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time at Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas. The details have not changed there. Televised on ESPN Plus and the SEC Network Plus, no longer Longhorn Network. Texas is favored by 41 points. And just to begin with that 40-point number, 41 points, can the Longhorns achieve that? We have not seen any sort of sign of life from the offense in the first 3 weeks. And honestly, we haven't seen any real hopes there either. Of course, Sam Houston comes into this game being 0-3 on the year, but you never know. Things can happen in terms of Texas, whether they're going to break that 40-point threshold or not. But we are on the scouting report section here, and so I will talk about Sam Houston and pay due where it is needed. At quarterback, you got a little bit of a situation for the Bearkats here. They actually, in the last game, had quarterback number 3 make an appearance because the backup quarterback got hurt. And, of course, the starting quarterback was out due to an undisclosed, I believe, injury, but it, yet again, was not disclosed. But the QB1 for the Bearkats, senior Hunter Watson, yet again, he might be returning, he might not. If not, backup quarterback, a Wisconsin transfer, Mabry Mature. He was a high-level recruit out of the Houston area. He actually went to Woodlands, and for a time was a 4-star, dropped late to a 3-star. But a capable guy in terms of someone that could potentially lead this Sam Houston program in the future. But again, for the Longhorns, you're not facing the top-tier talent that you're going to be accustomed to once you start SEC play. So it's going to be interesting to see there. But really, again, this just Bearcats team 0-3, as detailed by that record, that's really what you need to know. Their scoring offense so far this year, I've got the cheat sheet here. Scoring 102nd in the nation with just 21.7 points per game. I had to pause there to let you guys process that. The passing offense, 98th in the country. The rushing offense, 94th in the country. As you can see, there's not really any part of their game that they're able to rely on right now. And again, quarterback has been a little bit of a revolving door, especially in that last game or two. But, just for the Bearcats, not a lot of positive indications for them as well. And now looking more so at the Texas side, just things were not pretty. Let's be honest. It's a little week 3 recap here. I'm still going to talk about the Bearcats, so scouting report is still continuing, but I thought it'd be nice to indicate that we got week 3 here. It just wasn't pretty. Arch Manning, I wrote the stats down here. 11 for 25, 44% completion percentage, just 114 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I believe he entered the fourth quarter with just 97 passing yards. Of course, he got that touchdown very late to Ryan Wingo, who I'll mention in a second, but far too late to be doing anything in a game like that. That's a game that needs to be a stat patter. When you are in the Heisman, race later in the year, you're going to look back in that because you're going to have 5 or 6 clips of touchdowns that you're just beating up on the other opponent. You didn't have that for Arch Manning, and he was pretty down on himself and frustrated after the game in the press conference, and it's understandable why he owns his mistakes so far and his inaccuracies. But, of course, if you're Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns, you're going to need Manning to do well if you're going to have any chance not only to win a championship, which I think every Texas fan hopes and dreams for this year, but even just to get into that playoff conversation, you're going to need a quarterback that you can trust. Now, he did have 51 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns, which, of course, those in and of itself are solid, and it was nice to see that he was able to do some things outside of the passing, to make him a little more worthwhile at the quarterback position there. Yet again, I'm still high on Manning. It is early, but some of the things he needs to clean up, and I know people have talked about it. The mechanics look off. I know sidearm throws are the norm today, so I'm not going to say anything about those. I've seen a lot of people point out that, but just the mechanics of staying upright and planting your feet correctly. It's some of the smaller things that he's been off on. And because of that, some passes have sailed high and then others have gone low. And so, really, just cleaning up some of the basic stuff. And I don't claim to be a quarterback coach here. Some of the basic things will really just help him. And that's the reason for these tune up games. You would rather see the poor performances against teams that you're not really needing great performances from, or I should say against. So it's going to, yet again, it's a work in progress for Longhorns, but really to continue on that point, Ryan Wingo, just 3 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. And yet again, the blame here goes to really everybody as a group because, of course, quarterback Arch Manning has not been very accurate, but the receivers haven't helped him out as much as they probably could. But again, when they have been open, it seems like he just hasn't been able to hit them. And Wingo did have a touchdown catch last week against UTEP, but it came late. Parker Livingstone, who was the MVP offensively the first 2 weeks, just 2 catches for 23 yards. So not what you want to see out of either of those guys, especially against a UTEP opponent that, again, these are the sort of opponents that you're supposed to be stat padding and looking good and patting yourself on the back. And that didn't happen. There was no patting on the back offensively, except maybe other than this group, the running backs. A trio of running backs in this game. C.J. Baxter, first play injury. Quintravion Wisner, Trey, he was already out for the game. So C.J. Baxter being the lead back and then getting injured on the first snap is not what you want to see if you're Steve Sarkisian's Longhorns. But James Simon, Jarek Gibson, and Christian Clark all combined for 163 rushing yards. From them, great performances all around. You want to see, though, a little bit more of the explosive plays from the Texas running game. That was lacking, and if you are Sark as a play caller, you're really needing to rely on that, especially when you're not able to depend on that Texas passing game. So overall, while I said the rushing game was great, I'd probably give it right now a B, or potentially a B plus, just given the scenarios of injuries and a lot of youth and inexperience there, and still looking decent. But yet again, they need to be more consistent in getting some of those big stride plays of 20 yards or further. Did not happen, but in part because of the next point I'm going to make, the Texas offensive line. In the passing game, honestly, not too impressive. Yet again, the quality of opponents, just the play against them has not looked great. There's been a lot of push, especially on that right side of the line. I know Brandon Baker is just familiarizing himself still with college football, this being his first year as the guy on that right side at the right tackle position, but just hasn't been great. And it's not only him, it is a couple of people, especially in the penalties too. I know DJ Campbell is the leader of that offensive line, and he's just been subject to some of those officiating calls. You can't be having that, especially when, yet again, you're struggling to move forward. You definitely can't be moving backwards. They got to do a better job of protecting Arch, but also pushing the opponent. I mean, you didn't see a good push up front from that offensive line on scenarios where it was, 1 yard is all you need, or you're at the 1 yard line, and they could not do it. I mean, this isn't the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not asking for a lot. You just know, given the pedigree of a lot of these guys, of course, back in high school from their recruiting days, but also they've been competing against some of the best defensive lines Texas has had ever in practice. And so they've gotten the reps. They just have not looked great, to be frank. And so that will be maybe somewhat of an illusion later for an X factor. But to rope Sam Houston back into this, Sam Houston, I talked about offensively in scoring offense, 102nd in the country this year. However, we're talking about that Texas offense. Defensively, for Sam Houston has not been great, and this might be a chance for the Longhorns offense to finally break through and score. The scoring defense for the Bearkats, 125th. 125th in the country, allowing almost 39 points per game. I look a little sickly because those are some sickly stats. Even furthermore, to aid this point, the passing defense is 129th in the country, which is 5th worst. I think that's a little easier to understand. The 5th worst passing defense in college football. If Arch Manning and the Longhorns can't get it together in this game, I think it is very fair to say it is time to hit the panic button. And I'd be shocked, really, if you aren't panicking on some level already, but the glass on that casing of panic should be broken if they can't do it against the Bearkats. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful against Sam Houston, but yet again, we're talking the Texas Longhorns and the SEC, which honestly, overall, has been a bit of a shaky conference already at the start of this year. But again, Sam Houston not on the same playing field there. And then their rushing defense is 68th in the country. So a little more better, a little more solid, but really just even keel in terms of what the country is averaging there. So it'll be an opportunity again for guys like Simon, Gibson, and Clark. And we'll check on the status throughout the week of the other running backs for the Longhorns. But right now, you're going to have to think that those three are what Texas is going to rely on at those positions. And then just quickly moving forward in terms of our recap to the other side of the ball for Texas, the defense. The defense is really solid, and that is part of the frustration. Ironically, is that Texas has not had great defenses really for much of its recent history, and the fact that they have won this year and the offense struggles to score points is quite disheartening because the offense has put the defense in bad positions. Let's be honest. The field position game, just has not been great for Longhorns, which means that the opponents, in this case Sam Houston, are going to tend to start at a better yard line than they really should, and that means the defense has to hold up strong. They've done that so far this year. I would like to see more sacks in total. However, a lot of the just passing schemes that Texas has faced so far this year are very quick passing oriented and getting the ball out, as I mentioned, really in a blink of an eye. And UTEP did just that. We're going to get a quick water break here. 9 minutes into some recap. You got to stay hydrated, guys. Anyway, UTEP, again, quick passing. Ohio State, quick passing. It has worked against Texas so far in terms of keeping the quarterbacks clean. And if you're Ant Hill and Colin Simmons, I really need to see more from you. I mean, Ant Hill's been doing a solid job. Forced 2 fumbles, I believe, 2 weeks ago now. Colin Simmons, though, we heard the talk entering his sophomore year. One of the best freshmen in all the country last season. He's got to get some more sacks and really just help out a defense that in the secondary is solid but is subject to getting exposed if they have to cover a receiver for too long, which you did see against San Jose State earlier this season in this young budding season. Now, special teams. Guys, I complained about it before. Ryan Niblett. I was hoping and praying he would lose at least one screw because a good punt returner, you always need at least one screw loose, maybe two. And if you can afford a third screw, you got to lose it. Silas Bolden, great punt returner for the Longhorns when he was a Longhorn. What do I love about him is at every opportunity to take it out, he would. And it's a little psycho, but it ends up in getting yards. I mean, you just got to play numbers. Not every return is going to be a great one, but taking it out more often gives you more opportunities. Niblett was playing a little bit conservative early in the year. And I think Jeff Banks got to him because he was taking it out a little more often in this UTEP game. I've got stats here. 3 returns for 72 yards. Yet again, in the first 2 weeks, Texas wasn't getting any of those plus yards that are really easy opportunities to aid an offense that, again, has just been shooting itself in the foot. And you want to continue to see Niblett take these shots and opportunities. I'm still not sold on him being the guy at punt returner. But until we see some other options in the mix, it's hard to tell what else Texas can do. He just doesn't feel like a natural there. However, it seems like he's also learning that position. And like I said, getting more accustomed to taking it out as well. So now, as you can see here by the graphic, we're moving on to X factors. And I hinted at this last group here before, and that is the Texas offensive line. The offensive line has not been great for Longhorns. I mentioned that before. They've done okay, but even though there is some inexperience there, they have not been doing a great job of protecting Arch in the pocket. And Arch, despite all the things that, I have said about him, I'd say I keep it fairly positive, though. It's constructive. Just what you hear in the media as well, though, about all the inaccuracies, which are true. Yet again, last week, only passing for 44% completion percentage. That's not good. But the one thing I will give him credit for is his pocket awareness has been pretty solid, along with, of course, the scampering ability, too. He's showcased that. But he has actually read the pocket quite well in terms of moving around. And unfortunately, that has been something that has been needed from him because, yet again, the Texas O-line has not created that cushion for him in the pocket to feel comfortable on some of these throws. And that might even leak into some of the reason why his mechanics have been off, because clearly he's not comfortable in the pocket. But yet again, I think those two issues can still both exist separately. You want to see improvement from both, but the easiest way to make Arch more comfortable, of course, is to keep his jersey clean and give him the time that he needs. But again, passing has been the team's biggest issue here. I need to see improvements in the running game from the O-line as well. Yet again, I also mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles. You don't need a tush-push sort of O-line where it's guaranteed 4 yards on every play. However, you do want to see them winning those battles up front. Texas has some very large human beings, which is helped by the tank. That's their little cafeteria for the athletes. I can tell you those guys are living in there. They're bigger than the opponents, especially in these early weeks. And it just doesn't look like it. They have, I don't want to say been afraid to take the fight to the other team, but they just have not been almost mean enough up front, which is what you're needing from that O-line to win games. You want to see improvement here before you get to SEC play, because once you get to SEC play, you're facing even better teams. And if you think Texas has struggled in the passing game up to this point and in the running game, wait until you get there. My X factor, again, being that Texas O-line. The next part we've got is the danger level, which is always an interesting one, especially when I got to go by myself here. I'm giving this actually kind of abnormal high number. I've got a 5 here. Again, I mentioned breaking the glass in terms of a panic button. It might be the time to break that glass if you're a Longhorn fan already leading up to this game, which is not a good sign because, again, I'm not going to shy away from some of my preseason expectations. I'm not one to, put blame on others and not take it myself. I also thought that the Longhorns were going to enter this year as a national title contender, and not only contender as they have been in years past, but almost as a favorite front runner, and they just have not looked like that because the offense has held this team back. I know injuries have been a problem offensively. Again, there are plenty of excuses that you can make simultaneously. The quarterback play, O-line, you got some inexperience at running back, injuries at wide receiver, and just overall, again, inexperience. But altogether, you're going to need something to happen if you're going to go far this year. I've got the danger level at a 5. If Texas can't show that they can move the ball against Sam Houston with relative ease, then you're in trouble entering conference play. There's no other way around that. You need to see Arch making strides, not only in his play, but more importantly in his confidence. He mentioned this week that really the biggest deal for him so far this year has probably been more facing those mental obstacles and just being a college quarterback with all the hype. I'm sure it's difficult when you're not performing. You're going to be hearing about it from everybody. To overcome those, yet again, he's going to need some help around him to make things easier. But it's on his shoulders at the end of the day. I've got the danger level out of 5. I don't think Texas is risking a loss here, and I don't think that's stretching anything to say that, but it's not the loss that I'm really looking at. It's how comfortable can this team get after this game. I'm feeling a 5 here because I haven't seen real signs offensively yet to feel too confident, but this is the sort of game, yet again, with the 5th worst passing defense that Sam Houston has in the country. Not a state. I know Texas is a big state. This is the entire country. If you can't come together and defeat that, like the Avengers, if you're Arch Manning, and DeAndre Moore, yet again, was out last week with a concussion. Hopefully he's back this week. Emmett Mosley was out still due to an injury. So you still got Parker Livingstone. You still got Ryan Wingo. You're going to need those Avengers there, but you're going to need the backup. You're going to need some Thor-like power in coming weeks ahead because, yet again, there hasn't been a lot of sign of life offensively for Texas. And it's not a big problem right now, but it can hold them back in the future. We got the prediction section here. I know you guys are waiting for the score prediction. After a danger level of a 5, I'm going to think that Texas is going to take this one with relative ease. But again, can they do that on the offensive side of the ball? I've got Texas winning this game, but by how much, I'll let you know in a second. I got to tease out a little bit. Arch Manning, I think this is a great bounce back opportunity for him. It is very well noted that several, not only Heisman winning quarterbacks, but just legendary quarterbacks. I know one of my friends, Tommy, mentioned that Joe Burrow, through his first 3 games as a starter, struggled in his career. I've seen stats about Johnny Football struggling early in his career. It's just bound to be a great story, bound to be a great comeback. See, I'm at a loss for words because I think everyone expects Arch to come back and play like the quarterback that he did in the few appearances he had last season in a successful year for Texas. However, it's not a question of can he come back, because yet again, I think we're all expecting that. The question is, how long is it going to take and what is needed? Him himself, as I mentioned, he's got some things just in the quarterback room with AJ Milwee, the Texas offensive guru in terms of quarterbacks. He's the quarterbacks coach for Sark. They're going to be working on things leading up to this game, but he's going to need help. How many times can I say this, guys? He's got to get help from not only his running backs, which are on the, of course, running side of the ball, but his playmates. He needs help from his receivers. He needs help from his O-line, who have all been inconsistent. Yet again, injuries, inexperience, you name it. Someone needs to take a little more of the slack to make things easier for Arch as he's trying to work through some of those accuracy issues. But at the end of the day, good receiving play is not going to take away or make anything better if your quarterback just can't hit those passes. I think against Sam Houston State, again, the 5th worst passing defense. If you can't do it against the Bearkats here, it is time to hit that panic button. I think Arch passes with flying colors here. I think that the Longhorns offense gets back in stride. I think Arch throws for a couple of touchdowns. Hopefully gets a good amount of yards. I wouldn't be surprised if Sark leaves him in a little bit earlier than you typically would in a game like this. But he's got to see the ball go through the net. If you're a good basketball player, if you're a 3-point specialist, and you've missed 10 shots in a row from deep, I can't understate the value of just hitting a simple free throw. Sometimes it's those little wins, those little successes that really help ease you into a comfortable position in making those bigger shots. Arch, he's got to get some easy throws down. He's missed some of the checkdowns, some of the short 5 to 10 yard routes, and I know he's missed some of the bombs. Ironically, deep. He's been missing some just in front of receivers in the short passing game. He's going to need to see some just easy completions go down. I think once he does that, yet again, going to get a little more comfortable, going to hit those routes that he should be hitting on a routinely basis. But again, let's see how much help he can get around him. In the Texas defense, I don't want to talk only about offense in a video about Texas. The defense has been doing their thing against a Bearcat team that has had just some injury issues already at quarterback. I'm expecting more of the same from the Longhorns. Hopefully you get to see a little more sack action, a little more green grass on the quarterback's jerseys for the Bearcats. But also worth noting in this game, the Bearcats do like using their quarterbacks in the running game. Their typical starter, Hunter Watson, was leading the team in rushing yards and still is. But now the backup, Mature, he actually led the team also in rushing yards in their most recent game against Hawaii, which just goes to show that they do like to run the ball from the quarterback position. I believe that Mabry had about 12 rushing attempts as well. So Ant Hill and just Leonga Lafau, they're going to get their opportunities to tackle the quarterback. I'm not worried about them. Their offense and their special teams unit needs to help them. Everybody needs to help each other, I think, is what we're getting in terms of a final message here. All that to say, I do have Texas winning this one. I've got them winning 41-7. I want to say 41-6, expecting 2 field goals, but I'm going to say 7 and give myself a little buffer room there just in case. Manning going to throw for a few touchdown passes. Going to calm down his nerves a little bit. He's going to need Emmett Mosley back. I think that's clear. Jack Endries at tight end was banged up last week. Still gave it a go, but he's going to need to be back and just playing 100%. You could see the value from him at the tight end position in the first 2 weeks especially. You just need your healthy guys back there to make things easy. And again, Arch, I think in the words of Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. That message is for you Texas fans. I think it will be okay. I know we're all talking about panicking, but I think it's still too early to tell. But after this weekend's game against Sam Houston State, they dropped the state, Sam Houston. If you can't do it now, it just might not meant to be in the cards for this year. Now, Longhorns fans, what do you think about this opponent in Sam Houston? What's your score prediction? Let us know down below. And will Arch be back in the groove of things and look like last year's version? Let us know. Thank you for supporting Horn Sports, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.